Hello and welcome to Cleveland Conversations. When you hear the word engineering or engineer, what comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's probably someone with really thick glasses, maybe rocking and rolling with some big calculator the size of what's currently your laptop or something along those lines. Well, today our guest is going to inform us that engineering and the field is so much different and so much more than some of those visions that some of us may have. So our guest today is Dean Richard Schophoerster, who's from the Washkewicz College of Engineering at Cleveland State University. And welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
And he has graciously allowed me to call him Richard throughout this interview.
Yes.
So, what is an engineer?
An engineer is essentially a problem solver, or maybe better put, a solutions provider. We take knowledge from science and math to be able to manipulate the world around us in a way that helps make lives better. And just to give you some examples of what we do, we make people healthier. Almost anything a physician or a nurse uses now to help us maintain our health or rectify any health problems that we have, it was created and designed and built by an engineer. We make the world safer, both in the physical world safer, everything from the Department of Defense and the military solutions that we provide, to the cybersecurity that we provide on the cyber world as we're coming more and more in the cyber world. We make the world we protect the environment itself, so we protect the world itself by providing sustainable solutions. So as we're doing these things, we make sure that we're providing economic mobility and a better lifestyle, but doing that in a very sustainable way. And then finally, we make life more fun. Almost everything we do now requires a gadget or tool for us to do that, whether it's communicating or enjoying life, or everything we do in work and play. An engineer is providing solutions to make that better and better.
And what has stayed the same, what has changed over the decades in the field?
It has become a lot different. I mean, when I first started in the field, an engineer was more what you described, somebody that you put back in a lab. Don't put them in front of customers, just have them in the lab creating gadgets and tools and everything, and then having different people dealing with customers. Now it's a different world that we live in now. In fact, when I first started out as a faculty member, and this is back in the 90s, my dean there said that he predicted engineering will be the liberal arts degree of the 21st century. And that's kind of where we're headed now. Engineering is a much broader thing because of what I just described earlier. It encompasses everything we do in life. So what we do matters so much now that we have to do it in an ethical way, in a socially acceptable way, in a way that society is on a broader viewpoint improved, not just individual lives in the sense. And so we have to be much broader in that, and that's led to what we're sort of that movement towards a liberal arts degree now is the integrated majors that we're doing, where we're integrating engineering, computing degrees with arts and sciences and business and health and so forth. So we're integrating. Biggest example I use all the time is computer science and English for large language models. But we're also integrating computer science and ethics, so that as we're creating that AI, we're doing it in a very ethical way, and we're teaching people how to use it in an ethical way and so forth. So it's much different, and it's still going to continue to evolve further and further like that. And
why engineering? Why did you first become interested in this?
Well, how I first became interested is, as I said, engineering has made a big impact on health. Well, my interest was in health. I wanted to go to med school. I wanted to help people stay healthy and help them to be healthy in there. And that's when I learned the role that engineering plays in that. And I found out about this new degree field at that time, way back in the 1980s, called biomedical engineering. And that's what excited me about engineering. And so I went into that, and then from there I've just fallen in love with engineering, because I've learned more and more now over these next 40 years, some years, that the impact that engineering can have, and the better things that engineering can bring the human race.
And who are the main players so obviously Parker Hannifin is probably the most recognizable name in the field, but who are some of the main players? What's the lay of the landscape in engineering in Greater Cleveland?
Well, Cleveland, you may not recognize this anymore, but Cleveland always has been and still is a manufacturing town, right? Its roots going 150 years ago was around manufacturing, and it did go down for a while, but it's still a very vibrant manufacturing. Parker Hannifin is one example of that. Lubrizol is another main company that we work with, hires a lot of our graduates. Rockwell Automation is a big player in this area as well. A new company that's just been growing like crazy over the last couple of decades is called TransDigm, and they do a lot of the work for aerospace and defense industry and so forth. So there's a huge manufacturing base here, and that's really what drives the economy here. The other second part of that is the infrastructure and construction area. A lot of very interesting construction projects that most people are familiar with that are going to be coming up in the horizon here. There's one working right now in the Irish Bend and on the riverfront area, waterfront area is going to be a lot of construction going on. It looks like we are going to get a new Brown Stadium. We're getting a new airport. A lot of huge construction projects going on besides the little things too. That's going to be driving our economy and driving the workforce of the region here.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. So when I think of construction, my stereotypical viewpoint is somebody in a yellow helmet moving around with a wheelbarrow full of concrete or something of that nature, working with heavy machinery. What role does something like engineering play in that?
That's important because you would think of the worker, the technical worker, the skilled labor, the tradespeople doing a lot of the work on there. But the engineers, the civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers do a lot of the design work ahead of time, the structural design, the electrical power design of it, and the water system and heating and ventilation and cooling design and all that. And then once that all design is done, then it has to be built. And that's where construction management people come in. And so that's why that's a field that's really developed over the last 2 or 3 decades. Huge growth in that market there because they used to use either civil engineering or people in the general business management area to try to manage these big construction projects. They learned that they need people with both of those. And that's what construction management is. It has a little engineering, a little civil engineering kind of stuff in it, and some management stuff in there. So that helps them make sure they're doing this in a very efficient and correct manner.
And you have a formal program in that?
Yeah, we do have a new bachelor's program in construction management. It's one of the fastest growing programs that I've seen in my career.
And that's contributing to the greater Cleveland area by providing those expertise to allow.
Because there is a huge need for that in this region.
Mm-hmm. And what about the Cleveland Innovation District?
Well, the Innovation District is a economic development effort of the state. They have 3 innovation districts in the state here at the 3 main metropolitan regions in Cincinnati and Columbus, and then here in Cleveland. Each one has its own theme, and our theme was driven a lot by the Cleveland Clinic. In fact, the Innovation District itself is essentially from Cleveland State to the Cleveland Clinic main campus there. And so our theme is really around healthcare, biomedical, and computer science, AI, IT kinds of things there because that's what's driving everything these days. And so we've done a lot to be able to contribute to that in terms of the workforce. We started a new bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering. We already had graduate programs that were partnering very closely with the Cleveland Innovation District and Cleveland Clinic. Now we've got the bachelor's degree. One of our next integrated majors is going to be integrating biomedical engineering with entrepreneurship in the College of Business because there's going to be a lot of startup companies in that biotech area because that's the whole purpose of the Cleveland Innovation District is to get a lot of spin-offs. And there are 20 or 30 very vibrant spin-off type of companies already have started in the last 5 or 10 years here in this region as a result of that. We want to create the talent that they're going to need, people that know both the business side and the engineering side and the bio side of what they're doing there. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, let me ask a couple of more in-depth questions. How do you manage, because when you're being innovative and creative, new products are being put together, patents are being applied for, things of that nature, trade secrets, and let's face it, a lot of these things are for-profit industries.
Right.
Talk about how that's managed, because that's got to be at times an interesting type of negotiation that has to occur.
Yeah, it's very complicated and requires a lot of people there. One of the things that I've been hearing from industry on the needs that they see in the workforce that we provide on the engineering side, it used to be that engineers don't communicate very well, right? And it's still to some extent that's the case, and we continue to try to create and graduate engineers with better communication skills. But more often than not now, though, it's that they don't understand the business case for what they're doing, which is what you're describing. And so that's why we're working very closely, for example, with our Entrepreneurship Center, the Western Ideation Lab in the School of Business here. Their biggest customer in terms of students are engineering students, because we've really instilled on them the need to make sure that when you're working on a product, you have to make sure, what is the business case for this? Who will buy this? How much are they willing to pay for it? And all that, so that you can design it appropriately for that particular business case.
And the other question that I had is, how do you balance your curriculum decisions on what to teach, what not to teach? Because obviously you're very closely integrated and coupled with the needs of the community, but how do you balance the individual wants, needs, desires of community members who may wish for something to be more morphed towards their specific situation versus the more general curriculum needs?
That is always a difficult thing to do. There is an accrediting body for undergraduate programs across all engineering and computing called ABET. And one of their biggest requirements is that we do, on a very regular basis, reach out to our community that is hiring our graduates and ask them, what is it that you need? What are the skill sets that you need? For example, most recently now, and the problem that we have is there's always more new things in. We're trying to, stuff it into our very full curriculum. And so we're always doing those trade-offs on what we can do and what we can't do. But ultimately, we have to fill the needs of this community. And one need that we all know is coming up right now is the need to have AI capability and functionality in terms of everything we do. And we've decided now we cannot graduates now that don't know how to use AI to some extent in their field. And so we're in that process right now, because industry is also trying to figure out how they're going to use AI. And as they're doing that, we're staying in communication with them, so that as the skills sets around AI that develop as they deploy AI type of techniques, we make sure we're instilling those in our graduates.
Mm-hmm. Different topic. Esports is part of your portfolio. What is your favorite esports game? Do you like to shoot Martians? Do you like?
I have to admit, I'm not much of a gamer myself, and I've had to learn a little bit about the games that they play. But how we got involved in that is that number one, they needed a facility, and we had a computer lab that we could revamp for that. They had the funding to do that. So we initially were just hosting the site for where they were going to play. We thought that would be a good attractor for students, and it is. We use that as part of our recruitment tool now. Any students that we're trying to recruit to the university, we take them by the esports area there. But then when the athletics made a decision on dropping some of the programs, esports was up there as part of that discussion, and we said we can take that on. We'll make that an academic unit now, an academic organization, a student organization now, and we're pretty excited about what we're going to do with that. The nice thing is it's a place where we can get engineers and computing people working with other people across the university, right? So maybe half the students are in engineering and computing, but the other half are from majors across the university. I think the next biggest major that we have is psychology, for example. And so it's a nice interdisciplinary environment where we can get students working together on something that they love and are passionate about.
Yeah, give an idea of the numbers involved with these sports?
Well, right now we have probably somewhere between 40 and 50 what we would call sort of varsity players that play the big major tournaments, and we just won a major national championship in one of the games recently. And then now we're expanding out, since it is more of a student organization and an academic run, now we're expanding out a student organization club on that. And I think we have somewhere about the same kind of numbers, between 30 and 50 right now in the student organization. But we have plans to grow that out. We're kind of modeling ours after what University of Akron did. They've got more like 500 or 600 students in their organization club. We hope to be there in a few years.
Yeah, excellent. And something at the time that we're doing this interview, Magnet Ohio's Manufacturing Advocacy Growth Network has unfortunately lost their funding unexpectedly. I'm not going to ask you for information that you may or may not know about what's happening there, but I will ask you to talk a little bit about how critical Magnet is towards manufacturing and what your role is in supporting that.
Well, first of all, let me start out by saying it was really a shame, and we're very sad to see that the major funding they got is through what's called the Manufacturing Extension Program, which is a nationwide program that's been in place for decades and decades long, and with the whole purpose of local help to small and medium-sized manufacturing companies who need help to continue what they were doing. So the work they were doing is great, and we partnered and continue to partner very closely with them on doing that. And we will continue to do that going forward, and we'll be one of their biggest supporters. And if nothing else, this may be an opportunity for us to begin even working closer together. Because one of the things that we are doing is we created a center called the TransDigm Advanced Manufacturing Center, which is also going to be both a workforce development and workforce training type of opportunity. We've gotten some funding from the Economic Development Agency out of the Department of Commerce with the whole purpose of developing the workforce for manufacturing, and we'll be partnering a lot with Magnet on that. And now we're also going to continue to invest in that now and make it a major research effort as well too, to really advance the forefront of manufacturing, including things like humanoid robotics and all that kind of stuff, and humans working with robotics in a manufacturing center. And so we're really excited about the impact that we'll do there, and that partnership with Magnet will continue on, and we hope that we can help each other and grow both together at the same time.
And you mentioned the Irish Bend project before. What's involved with that? You're trying to stop a hill from going into a river. Right.
Well, it's a combination of both a necessary engineering work that needed done with also a community benefit type of thing as well, right? And so there's been a lot of concern about the wash from the river on the banks there. It wasn't designed very well to begin with, and wasn't designed for how it ended up, how it's been used now over these last 50 years. And so that was an important component of it. Now that part is done, and now it's more of a community benefit, but still takes a lot of engineering and moving dirt around in the right way and so forth, and designing that to make sure that it's a really effective place for a community to meet and enjoy as well.
And you spoke about artificial intelligence before. It's no great, wonderful pronouncement that this seems like it's not going to go away anytime soon.
That's right.
And you spoke to how industry is wrestling with this and the like. Be a little bit more specific, if you can, on what you're seeing, recognizing that it's still in its infancy as far as what's actually going to develop. How is that affecting what engineers do on a daily basis?
Well, two couple ways now, even in my discussions with industry, is number one, generative AI is a good information gatherer and organizer for you. So it saves time. And a lot of engineering work is doing research on what's being done in this area, what is the knowledge base in this area, how can I continue to build on that knowledge base. Generative AI just helps you do that a lot faster. So that's number one. The second thing that generative AI can help you with, a big part of engineering is the creative side of it. How do we come up with a creative solution to this particular problem? And generative AI is a great generator. It's a problem solver in terms of being able to come up with lots of potential solutions. Now you still have to use our human thinking and abilities to be able to decide which ones are the best, but it can come up with lots of potential solutions to problems, and that's a big part of brainstorming and what we want to do anyway. And so it's sort of brainstorming on steroids if you do that with a generative AI tool.
And are you perceiving this as like a standalone skill that you'll have, okay, here's a class in AI, or here's a training program in AI, or are you perceiving this as something that's just going to be part and parcel integrated into just about everything?
I think it really has to be integrated into almost every course throughout our curriculum at some point. There are some people that are creating, bachelor's degree programs in AI, and that may be okay. There may be a small niche for some people that are really specialized in that area, but it's really a skill set that's going to go across the board. All of our disciplines, I think it's going to be across the board, the university-wide in all of our majors. Everybody is going to have to learn how to use AI within their discipline and long-term job.
And let me ask you about one more project or initiative that you're involved with. The Cleveland Water Alliance. What does this group do?
That's a really interesting group, a very exciting group. I'm very happy to be working with them and doing whatever I can to help their goals. It is another economic development agency here within this region, and what it's doing is taking the biggest asset that we have in this region, which is fresh water, and how can we develop an economy around that? Fresh water is going to be in the coming centuries what oil has been recently in terms of the need to have it. And there's no bigger supply of fresh water than the Great Lakes region here. And so both maintaining it to make sure that it stays drinkable and usable is going to be important, but then also taking advantage, using it as a test bed. So one of the exciting thing they're doing now is they're drawing companies from around the world who are making products for water safety, for water management, for water testing and all that kind of thing. And we've got a great test bed here within this. And so they've created a great test bed that's coming here. And they're doing that to say, come here and do your testing, and then hopefully keep your company right here too, because we got this resource right here that you can continue to use.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to somebody that's looking to break into engineering today?
Well, what I would say is it's engineering.
Besides learn AI. No,
well,
no.
But engineering is for everybody. I'm going to come back to where I started. I really think it's a liberal arts degree of this century now. It is for everybody. We are going to be expanding these integrated majors. And I would say if you want to make an impact on human health, if you want to make an impact on the environment, if you want to make an impact on how we work and play, if you want to make an impact on the safety of all of us together as a society, both from a physical and cybersecurity standpoint, engineers are the ones that are going to be able to make that impact. And you can make it even more exciting by integrating with one of our other majors here in the university to make sure that you have the right kind of skill set for the jobs of the future, which is what those integrated majors are about.
Excellent. Well, thanks to Dean Richard Schophoerster for not only giving his insights into the field of engineering, but making us much better aware of just how important engineering is and how many community impacts that are having in such a great diversity of different areas in Greater Cleveland. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of Cleveland Conversations.